The LA riots, Luis Briones, Tyler Conkle, Austin Salvador. Our argument. The Los Angeles riots, a series of arsons, thefts, riots, arsons, beatings in the Los Angeles area in 1992, was inevitable. This catastrophic event was a result of escalating racial and civil tensions in the 1980s and 1990s. Some major contributors to this outbreak were the crack epidemic, Latasha Harlan incident, and other civil and racial injustices to many Los Angeles. Main causes: the crack epidemic. Crack cocaine first came into the United States in the 1980s from Nicaragua, and soon after entering the Los Angeles area, addiction became a major problem. People who became addicted quickly took any measures in order to continue their use. This led to a large increase in robberies in the Los Angeles area. Also, after the introduction of crack, crime in Los Angeles dramatically increased as well. In addition, low-skilled workers in South Central Los Angeles lost their jobs due to the closing of factories these people worked in as a result of the crack crimes. These people then turned to drug dealing in order to support their families. Many of these new dealers then went on to fight over prices and territory, which led to a large surge in homicides. Causes continued. Latasha Harlan's incident. On March 16, 1991, Latasha Harlan's, a 15-year-old African-American girl, walked into the Empire Liquor Market on South Figueroa Street in Los Angeles. She then proceeded to grab an orange juice from the refrigerator and then placed it in her bag and took out money to pay for it. However, the store's owner, a 51-year-old Korean-American woman named Soon-Ja Do, believed she was stealing the juice. When Harlan's reached the counter, Do began to argue with her and even tried pulling the bag from her. Harlan's naturally fought back and then knocked the woman down. Latasha then pulled the orange juice from her bag, put it on the counter, and turned to leave. When she saw this, Soon-Ja Do picked herself up, grabbed a handgun from under the counter, and shot the girl in the back of the head from 3 feet away, therefore in a fit of racial profiling rage. When Do was put on trial and being charged with manslaughter, the appropriate sentence would usually be about 16 years. However, the judge opted to sentence her to about 5 years probation, a $500 fine, and 400 hours of community service. Needless to say, the black community in LA was outraged by this decision, and this case sparked a rising tension between the Korean and black communities that would later result in the burning down and damaging of 2,300 Korean shops during the Los Angeles riots. Causes continued. Rodney King. Another account of racial profiling and a precursor to the LA riots of 1992 occurred on March 3, 1991, where Rodney King, a 25-year-old black male from Altadena, and 2 friends, Brian Allen and Freddie Helms, were driving on the Interstate 210 freeway. A CHP car started to follow them and planned to pull them over for speeding. Rodney, who was driving, sought to avoid the patrol officer because he knew receiving a speeding ticket would violate his parole for a previous robbery conviction. After a long car chase, King's car was cornered and the police officers arrested, handcuffed, and took the 2 passengers away. King, however, the driver, remained in the car until he decided to surrender to the police officers. 4 officers attempted to swarm King with the thought that he might resist arrest. After he attempted to flee, King was tasered twice, then hit approximately 50 times with batons by 4 separate policemen. The 4 policemen were Stacy Kuhn, Lawrence Powell, Timothy Wynn, and Theodore Berenzio. A white middle-aged man in the nearby apartment, George Holliday, recorded the whole incident and turned the video as evidence to a nearby police station. The 4 officers were put on trial, and 3 of them were acquitted based on the decision of a mainly white jury. These decisions caused yet another outrage in Los Angeles from the black community. The Rodney King incident is considered the true tipping point of the LA riots, as it was a symbolic example of the racial profiling African Americans were experiencing from many cultures in their communities. Causes continue. 1984 Olympics. The 1984 Olympics occurred just before the LA riots. Metaphorically, this particular Olympic Games was the match that lit the ticking time bomb of racial tensions in the LA area, creating approximately 70,000 jobs and profiting over $200 million. These games were regarded as having been highly successful. With celebration from the wild success of the games, LA Police Chief Daryl Hayes was determined and successful in calming racial tensions in LA. With tactics such as entire police sweeps of neighborhoods, he ensured the public safety, and after the Olympics concluded, he continued to use his power to continue his unorthodox tactics. Gates was on thin ice from his unorthodox enforcement tactics, but he knew with his power that nothing bad could happen to him. There was a 33% spring in complaints about police brutality from 1984 to 1989, and the LAPD took this as just a warning to fix the problem. Along with the majority of the 70,000 jobs being non-union and thus temporarily altogether, the outcome would only be loss of these 70,000 jobs and an unchecked power of the police. Critic Mike Davis says South Central LA has been betrayed by virtually every level of government. In particular, the deafening public silence about youth employment and the juvenation of poverty has yet let many thousands of young street people with little alternative but to enlist in the crypto-Keynesian youth employment program operated by the cocaine cartels. The riots themselves began the day of the verdicts. This inevitable culmination of racial tension began as a crowd descended upon the Los Angeles County Courthouse to protest the verdict of an acquittal passed down upon by the police officers, with the riots becoming highly publicized. A white man, Reginald Oliver Denny, a truck driver stopped at a light, was attacked by his vehicle and would end up severely beaten by others simply because of his skin color. The riots would only increase in violence as fires were set ablaze, stores were robbed, and people were harassed and killed. Lasting a total amount of 6 days, the intervention of federal troops and the National Army Guard would become necessary in cooling down tensions. As many as 13,500 U.S. military forces would directly support the Los Angeles police officers. The LA riots were bound to happen as evidenced by the rising social and political tensions from the racial profiling incidents in the 1980s and 1990s. The different minority groups have been experiencing segregation and degradation in LA for quite some time, so it was only a matter of time until tensions rose to a massive brawl. Even though the riots caused property and collateral damage, it was brought to the attention of LA citizens the severity of these conflicts. Subsequently, violent crime would fall by 76% between racial groups during the years of 1992 and 2010, and 60% of residents had reported that racial tension had improved the past 20 years. Therefore, not only were the LA riots inevitable, but they had benefited the population as a reminder of how seriously racism can affect a community.